The QPR podcast is sponsored by Northwood Fresh Fruit, Flowers and Plants. Based outside Northwood train station, they'll supply everything you need in the way of fruit, flowers and plants daily. And if you're passing them at Northwood train station, pop in and say hello, because Kev, who runs it's a QPR fan. Tell him the QPR podcast sent you.
QPR, QPR, Chris Charles Rangers are on the up and up. QPR, QPR, now we're heading for European Cup.
Hello and welcome to the QPR podcast. I'm David Fraser and I am sat here with loads of QPR fans actually in the room tonight. In front of microphones are the four original QPR podcast crew. So it's myself, it's Chris Mendes from ITV Sport.
Hello.
It's Paul Finney from Independent R's.
All right.
And it's Chris Charles from BT Sport.
Hello.
But he wasn't BT Sport then, was he?
He wasn't BT Sport then.
No, I was BBC.
4 years ago, you were BBC, and the other Chris was Talk Sport. Also joining us this evening, so lots of 3 weeks ago, we had Matt Winton, who came all the way from Isle of Wight, which is quite far to come for a podcast. But tonight we are joined by Paul and David, who have come from Perth, not Perth in Scotland.
I knew you'd say
Perth in Australia. Thank you very much. Say a big hello so we can hear you on the microphone.
Hello.
very Australian, does he?
At QPR Sludger on Twitter, which, if anybody's listening, that is definitely worth a follow, seeing as you've trekked across the world to hear us. So hopefully we won't make it too depressing, because we've got a long list of things to go through. Right, before I do any of that, let me remind everyone how they can keep in touch, listen to us and all the rest of it. You can follow us and get in touch with us on Twitter by following us at QPR Pod. If you go onto Facebook, search for the new QPR podcast, you can find us there, and you can go on the website, listen to all old episodes and all the rest of it at qprpod.co.uk. A big thank you to our sponsor of the podcast for this evening. That's Northwood Fresh Fruit, Flowers and Plants. They're just outside Northwood train station. If you pass them, the fella who runs it is called Kevin. He's a big QPR fan, so go in there, say hello to him, and you can talk about Rangers as well as getting your fruit and everything else. Right.
Especially the fruit.
So, there's such a long list. We don't have a guest tonight because we've got way too much to talk about. Where does anyone want to start? We usually start with the game, but I'm not even sure. Should we start with Preston? Because that's all within the context of everything else, isn't it?
We've had two games and a managerial sacking since the last pod.
We've had two games, managerial sacking, a consolidation of, or sale of, or whatever you want to call it, of shares. We have had tweets from the chairman. We have a supposed summit in Malaysia for the management team. We have a new interim manager. What else? Anything else? Nothing else has happened. What else has happened in the last week? What are we going to talk about?
The thing is, right, let's go for manager, right? Let's go, because Saturday's game can be described quite simply as 15 minutes like Brazil's 70 minutes. Well, the second half was a bit boring, whatever. Anyway, it's got to be Warnock, surely. They're not going to just drag Warnock in, give him temporary charge, and then tell him to go away and go back to his tractor. Surely it's got to be Warnock to the end of the season, and then see what happens after that. And underneath him, I'm sure, will be the development of Hill and Derry.
But yeah, I mean, when you say that, is that are you saying surely, as in that's what you think it should be, or you think that's what the club will do?
I think, to be fair, if you want someone who knows the Championship, if you don't want someone who can get the best out of the players we've got and knows how to get results in this league, then Neil Warnock's your man, surely.
But their options must be quite limited, because who in their right mind would go to that club under those owners?
But they always say that in football, and there's still
a
whole long list of unemployed blokes who will take the right job. Who will take the job.
Yeah, of course you'll find someone.
Alan Kirbysh hasn't ruled himself out yet.
Not the right ones.
Yeah, but is anyone who is the right person for this job?
Someone with let's say, for example, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank's is earning a good reputation. Would he go?
Does he want to ruin his managerial career this early?
Exactly. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Now people will come to QPR because QPR
pay a lot of money.
No, they pay a lot of money. Got a fantastic transfer budget. We don't buy players in the transfer window; we buy squads. So they've got the ability to spend and spend and spend and
Well,
spend.
it depends what philosophy we're going for. It depends if we're going for philosophy. We were at the start of the season when we're going back to grassroots, good old QPR, bringing through kids, not spending any money, blah blah blah, or if it's going back to Plan A.
Well, we were doing that 6 months ago.
Yeah,
Are we still doing that?
Well, that's what I mean. No, I mean, who knows what's going to happen in January? It's
Well, you know what's going to happen in January. He's going to reload and
well, that's the suspicion. Yeah, but
What do you mean? He's going to...
just reload the squad again. Every transfer window, we just reload the squad. We can't move players on for whatever reason, and at some point we've got to put the brakes on it and say you've got to work with what you've got. You've got to get the best out. Maybe work with Alexa Doherty, bring back Harriman, but do things differently. Try and get the best squad we can to do a job in this league rather than just buy names.
Do you have a question mark with the setup at QPR, how it is at the moment? When we had Chris Ramsey on this podcast about a month ago, he came on and we asked him about the backroom staff and all that, and he said, Les Ferdinand's my boss, I answer to him. So how are you going to get an experienced manager to come in when he doesn't choose who the club signs?
That's not going to happen with an experienced manager. I don't think Les Ferdinand's going to go to Neil Warnock and tell Neil Warnock what to do.
I've never heard of any football club struggling to find a manager. No football club has ever come out and say, we want to employ a manager, but we haven't found the right person. There's only 92 jobs, aren't there? There's only 92 opportunities to manage a football club in this country. So there won't be a shortage of people. I agree, it's about getting the right person, but...
Yeah, so thinking 92 is probably not a good idea. Why don't you think outside the box? Last time we had a foreign manager, it went okay. Luigi Di Canio played good football. After that, Paulo Sousa didn't do very well, but now he's top of Serie A in Italy with Fiorentina. It just shows. And look at the clubs who came up last year. Watford had a manager who no one knew about. Norwich got their manager from Scotland.
But there comes
a
point.
That's so bizarre. From Scotland.
there comes a point in time though when you look at this and you look at all the managers QPR have had. You look at Mark Hughes' record sort of before and after QPR. You look at Redknapp was on the wane, but I mean he did all right at Spurs. I mean we've had quite a long succession of managers who've done all right previously.
He did okay at QPR, didn't he? If you're fair, you can argue with the players he bought and money and his nonsense.
All
but
right.
He did okay, didn't he?
Yeah, okay. But what I'm saying is, generally, at some point you've got to look beyond the manager.
You've got to look in the mirror.
But that's the problem with attracting managers. They'll look at that.
That's the reason why we're not getting it right with these managers. I'm not the first person that said it on this podcast this year.
No,
it's not the guys that we're putting in that managerial chair. Maybe it's not them.
That's exactly what I'm saying. The only sort of glimmer of hope I've got is that Lee Hughes has got a good track. Is that how you pronounce him, by the way?
He played centre forward for West Brom and then he went to prison. But isn't that him?
Yeah.
That's
Lee Hughes. He was called Lee Hughes.
Yeah, no, that was Lee Hughes. This is Lee Hughes.
Yeah.
Notorious, yes.
But he appointed Deitch, he appointed Pearson, whatever you think of him, but he did eventually get Leicester up and to do an okay job with them, and also Eddie Howe's, if my memory serves. So if they actually, what I'd like to see QPR do is for once actually go through a proper interview process where you actually interview more than one person, and then you call the best candidates back for a second interview, and then you appoint the manager on the basis of that. And Lee Hughes seems to have got a good track record in that department. So,
Pearson's the favourite, isn't he? He's the new favourite.
I can't see him with Lee Hughes. Can you? They didn't have a bit of history. Pearson, Lee Hughes. I can't see him coming. I mean, I can't see him wanting to work with a director of football. I mean, I can't see him wanting to do anything really. I've already said it, but surely the obvious thing is to have Warnock in the season and take your time and get the right person. Whether it's someone in Germany, Spain, wherever, it doesn't matter, Scotland, Ireland, whatever, just get the right person in.
What I don't understand as well is for Tony Fernandes coming out today saying that QPR fans need to manage
always
their
blame the fans.
Brilliant.
3 weeks after posting on Instagram
Brilliant. Yeah,
a photo of training saying going up means everything to me.
Yeah,
the dream.
Yeah,
that's why it's difficult that's why you have to feel sorry for Chris Ramsey, because he didn't choose the players in the summer. They told him that the objective was consolidation, and then gave him these players that he didn't choose and changed the objectives halfway through the season.
Well, let's talk about Chris Ramsey.
Someone said to me last week, the best description of Chris Ramsey was, who the hell said it? Anyway, I can't remember who it was, but he said that it's like during a game, your goalkeeper gets injured, you put a striker in goal, he lets in 3 goals, he'd never play him again and absolutely hammer him. He wasn't really ever brought in to be the manager. Yeah, he ended up as being manager. His whole remit was youth team, and of course he was never going to turn it down. It was just a wrong time.
What do we... Come on, let's talk about Chris Ramsey then. I'm not entirely sure the 4 of us are representative of the general consensus of views, but we'll try and represent everyone. I mean, what do you think, Chris?
Well, I think, in terms of, results of football, there was definitely an argument for getting rid of him. I mean, you can't... I think he did an okay job, but some of his decisions, his in-game decisions, were quite strange. Like it seemed to me that he knew how to send a team out. He knew what team he wanted to go out and how he wanted them to play. Mm-hmm. But if we went one behind, for instance, and he had to change things, he didn't really know what to do, or didn't seem to. And we had situations like at Brentford, where we had our sort of J. Emmanuel Thomas, our striker, supposed to get on the end of things, taking long throw after long throw into the box. And the thing was, I did feel sorry for him, and I think that's not being patronising. I do think that he was brought in to do a job. He was brought in to do a job of consolidation, to bring the young players through, and then the goalposts were shifted sort of midway through his tenure, which was only 12 games, I think, this season.
Were they shifted, or were they just... was he just told they'd been shifted? Because the 5 players that supposedly stayed and therefore changed expectations, but by my reckoning only 2 of them actually played properly under him, were available, and one of them's in goal, and kind of a goalie in that division's a bit...
Well, none of that...
neither here nor there who's in goal, to an extent. It's not like in the Premier League. So, did he actually have a chance?
Well, that's the thing. Of all those 5, I mean, Charlie Austin's the only one. I mean, Charlie Austin, 7 goals in, as many games at the start of the season, unfortunately gets injured. Rob Green, bit of a shaky season. You can't deny that. He didn't make a brilliant stop.
If we'd had Smithies in goal all season, would we be in any different place to where we are now?
That's one position, but you would think with those 5 players, it's the classic on paper, you would think of those 5 players, Sandro, Fur, Phillips, Austin, Rob Green, that you'd have a reasonable chance of at least
Sandro, Fur and Austin haven't been available for the last 6 weeks,
but that
more or less.
Yeah, but when you said have the goalposts been shifted, they were shifted very publicly by Fernandez tweeting and by Les Ferdinand coming out and saying, Chris has got to buck his ideas up. The situation changed. So in that sense, yes, he had, and that's why I thought he was, a bit humiliated a little bit there, because I don't know. I know he's a big man and he's a football bloke, and you should expect the knockdowns. But some of the treatment by the board and by some of the fans, I just thought was a bit out of order, and I did ultimately feel sorry for him. I was sorry to see him go. I understood why he went, but I just thought he was a decent fella, and
Do you think he should have gone?
Like I said at the top of that, based on results and decisions towards the last 3 or 4 games, was just a bit strange. But I mean, I personally would have given him a bit longer. But
do you want my thoughts?
Please,
you're going to get them. That is
what would have happened if we'd have said no at that point? All of us, just in chorus, said no.
I would have got a cherry pick and threw you through Wendy. No, I don't know where to find one.
Yeah,
but I'll find one. Sure, read in my speciality. I think it's a lot more complicated than that. I think results, everything else, but I also think there was a case of the players didn't really know who was boss half the time. I mean, I heard well, that's true. I don't know. You've got 3 people doing team talks. It should be the manager. The manager should be the person that goes in the dressing room.
Who are the 3?
I'm not saying. But you know,
well, that's quite. Ramsey, Warnock, and Ferdinand. Presumably,
obviously, yeah. Each giving team talks, each trying. So the players are kind of like, who is in charge here? Who really? So therefore, Chris is on the mound from day one. And I listened to the Derby game because I couldn't get down there, and Phil Parry was like saying, you can see Chris Ramsey's clearly looking up, getting instructions from the director box. So the kind of thing would have been to just sack him and not bring in Neil Warnock. I think bringing in Neil, as much as we all love Neil and everything else, undermined the fella and was a wee bit cruel. And they didn't. They asked for patience, but they didn't show any patience. And I think the way we could have acted with a wee bit more class. I think results wise, they weren't good, and something had to change. And I think the players were maybe confused who was really in charge. And I think if you've got that situation going on in the dressing room where you're getting 3 people telling you what to do, you're going to be confused. Under Warnock, they will know who the manager is.
I don't
But
think
they don't know. That's the problem because
But if they keep Warnock,
yeah, but they haven't come out and said they will. So
then what's the point of bringing him back, paying him loads of money?
on
and
Saturday, players normally if you get a new manager,
Allegedly.
normally if you get a new manager, the players are like, right, I want to put in a performance, I want to earn my place under this manager. But with Warnock, they're thinking, I don't know if he's going to be here for the next game or if he's going to be here for two games.
But could the players have done any better? I mean, and I mean, first 20 minutes on Saturday, yeah,
They look good.
They did, but then I mean, Preston haven't let in a goal for 6 games now. I sort of basically caught up on a bit of sleep in the second half. They
defended very well.
Yeah,
Preston.
they did, but they also
executed their game plan, as they say, very well.
But they also had any chance they had to go down, time wasting from the 10 minutes in. I'm not, I can understand as a Preston fan, first and foremost you want to stay in the division, but it wasn't pretty.
But
I mean,
Chris, from their point of view, they've got their centre half. He's mocking Charlie Austin.
No, absolutely.
In fairness, like he's going to use whatever he can to get up on Charlie
no,
Austin.
and that's why I'm saying it's not. I totally get that, but as a spectator, I mean, geez, I mean, it was like. I was going to say parking the bus, but it was more like a bloody aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just really. Yeah.
But then again, when they broke, they looked more dangerous than we did at times.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, and as I said, we owed it to Green right at the death there to keep us to keep a point. I mean, first game in charge, Neil Warnock's not going to come in, wave his magic wand, and suddenly we're going to start.
But if Ramsey
he did last time, didn't he? We beat West Brom 3-1. They were top of the table heading to the Premier League. But I think everyone kind of expected a bit of a bounce straight away. But to be fair, Ramsey
never got a bounce, did he?
The thing was,
we never get a manager's bounce, no matter who it is. We never ever get a manager's bounce.
Chris Mendes, right thing to do? Getting rid of Ramsey?
No, I didn't think so at the time. I thought he deserved a bit longer. And one thing that he did do well was he tended to put in. I mean, it would have been a different story perhaps on Saturday because Preston were really well organised at the back. But when we did play teams at home like MK Dons, whose last home game, we got the 3 points. So,
but the thing is, the abuse he got, he could never stay.
And I think that's what probably the main reason they decided to do that. If the fans were fully behind Ramsey,
or even a bit behind, it would have helped.
After Derby, they probably wouldn't have done it. And Fernandes is a chairman who, for all his faults. And this is probably one of them. At times, he listens to fans too much. And
that's interesting.
And like I said, he's very transparent. But he'll start interacting with fans on Twitter, and he start suggesting which manager to go for, and you're just thinking, oh no, just wish he had your plan.
But that's the thing is, I think I said last time I won. You totally respect fans who pay good money to vent their feelings. I mean, that's fine. And I mean, personally, I reserve the boos for John Terry and Chelsea if I ever boo at all. But everyone has that's up to it. It's they've paid their money. They've got a right to do what they want. But at Brentford, I thought I mean, people were just waiting for Carl Henry to do something out of the ordinary, as in not in a good way, and B, as soon as Ramsey walked past at the end, he was just getting dog's abuse. And
Carl Henry, who wasn't booed at all on Saturday.
No.
And it was universally accepted.
Did actually
him at
really
right back
stage as well.
and did okay. Now you tell me what's changed. Carl Henry's still the same bloke. He's still being picked. But all of a sudden, there's no anti-Carl Henry sentiment. So, was it actually Carl Henry they were booing?
Well, they were booing Carl. It was Chris Ramsey for sticking with Carl Henry.
But Neil Warnock sticks with him.
I know. Exactly. But it did help that Henry had a really good game. He was probably one of our best players.
I think, to be fair, it's neither. I mean, what Chris Ramsey did, which, to his credit, I mean, he walked in front of the players every time. It was give me the dog's abuse, clap them, I'll take it on the chin.
Yeah.
It wasn't warranted. I mean, we've had some rubbish managers at the time, but he has had the most stick I can remember. I don't remember. I mean, even Mullery didn't get that much stick as he got, and Paul Hott certainly didn't get it, and stuff. I feel sad about that because I think if I was his family in the box and watching the games, it'd probably be really bit heartbreaking to see the person you care about getting all that flack. And when the players, at times, I felt didn't put a shift. I mean, first 15 minutes on Saturday, I thought if I was Chris Ramsey watching this game, I'd get on the pitch and say, why didn't you do that for me? Why the intricate pass and stuff like that? I don't think the players helped him, but I do believe there was a massive confusion about the club, and they need to sort it out. If they are going to put a manager in charge, it needs to be his responsibility. He brings in the players, he does what he wants, he runs the way he wants, because the meddling doesn't work, and it's got to stop.
But then what does Les Ferdinand, what's his role?
Well, you don't mess with Les Ferdinand, do you?
No.
Chris Ramsey and Harry Redknapp can probably attest to that.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you know, let's say Neil Warnock continues, gets us promoted, then all of a sudden does Les Ferdinand's position come under focus, or Nigel Pearson comes in, who doesn't like working in that structure but puts up with it, say he gets us promoted, does all of a sudden Les again become vulnerable?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's...
Is it all about promotion now?
Well, I think that is the question. I think that's the question behind all of this. We were sold a long-term plan, which is all very well until it doesn't work out in the short term. If we were all focused on this long-term, developing youth, getting the football structure right, do you have to show more patience, like Tony Fernandes said today? I've seen debate on Twitter and online and amongst fans, almost two camps the last week. There's those who the be-all and end-all is, or their priority, let's say, is the club, and there's those who their priority is the team. And there is a clear difference between the two.
Fernandes' comment is comical because he's telling us to manage our expectations while sacking the manager because he can't manage
Absolutely.
his own.
But I care less about the team than I do about the club. And I'm not like, you know, kind of making any judgment on anyone else, but I'm prepared to like take a hit on results and performances if it means they're sorting the club out. Well, but other people just couldn't, you know, they just looking week to week, which is fair enough, that's their opinion, and but they care about how the team's done this week and last week.
But it all goes back to these 5 players staying at the club in the summer. If they'd have all gone, and we'd have been playing Luongo, the other lad from Swindon they sent back. If we'd been playing all these sort of youth team players, blend them in with a few we got left, then I think people would be happy with. Yeah. Generally, people wouldn't expect anything above mid-table. They'd know, that was the deal.
It's a shame they didn't go. I wish they all went.
Yeah, I do. Do you know what I mean? I never thought I'd say that, but it would have made things a lot easier for people to accept. And as you said, David, the thing is that those 5 players are very rarely actually all play together in the same team anyway. I mean, Sandro, breaks his toenail and is out for 3. He plays one decent game, then he's out for 3, and then
Sandro's he's been doing interviews in Brazilian publications saying he desperately wants to go back and play in Brazil. So his heart's not here. He knows.
Well, that's fine. We'll play your heart out for QPR so that somebody wants to pay a few quid for you.
Isn't that the problem for the last 4 years? We just brought players and brought squads. They're half-hours. They come for the money. Let's just be bloody honest about this. A lot of the players that sign for QPR will sign for the money. That's it. There's a few exceptions. I don't think Charlie Austin signed for money. I think he's done his best. But most of them, and when you want people in the trenches beside you and times are tough, they're the first one to go missing. But
I mean, Leroy Fur's, I'm not singling him out particularly, but Leroy Fur's not here because he wants to stay, desperately wants to stay QPR, get promoted. He's here because he failed a medical at Sunderland, isn't he? I mean,
he's here because we paid him enough money to make him come here.
Okay, yeah. But
that's regardless. But
it's not like these players have gone missing in these matches for Ramsey. They haven't played.
Why?
I mean, okay, Sandro maybe has, but they haven't played for him.
Yeah.
What I don't understand as well is
haven't been available. I mean,
Rob Green is probably our oldest goalkeeper, and he had a really good season last year, but he's on big wages, and he came onto the podcast last week or the week before and said, the club said to me we wanted to stay, but surely they'd move him on and keep Alex McCarthy, who's gone to Palace, and they've got Smithies in. If it was all about the long term, surely they'd do that. But you
can only move him on if people are going to take him and pay the money. I mean, you can't blame Rob Green. I don't know what he's on, but you can't blame it. You can't blame a bloke if he's being paid X amount a week, and then suddenly another club says, we'll take you. You might not get be in the first team, but we're going to give you so much less a week. So you can only get rid of them if people take them off your hands. I'm pretty sure they'd have let Rob Green go for a free.
Was Dave McIntyre wrote a piece maybe a month ago on West London Sport saying basically Ramsey's face doesn't fit, and I wonder if that was really his problem from the beginning. His face didn't fit because he'd never had a job like that before.
the thing of the stigma
Hadn't really played to a high standard as a professional. Youth team coach. Also came in, on a team that was sliding towards relegation. Was it just not the right job for him and at the wrong time? Was it sort of doomed from the start?
I think with QPR it's always difficult because when Chris first took over, he had the whole press, the whole press conferences in all the time, asking, and they made a big thing about him being a black manager in the Premier League. It was a press that made a big thing about that, and it was disappointing when I read last week the BBC were saying, black manager sacked, blah blah blah. It's like, we have got the most ethnic board in football.
I mean, that was bollocks.
Of course it was.
I think it's because there was
whatever
two
you
on
think
there.
of it, and I disagreed with the sacking, it had absolutely nothing to do
No,
with
of course not.
And it wasn't the BBC saying it. It was a guy from
Townsend's dad.
Yeah, they
Troy Townsend.
It was their
from Kick
story,
It Out.
but yeah.
It was a ridiculous
Just to clarify,
story.
but yeah, of course it was. That's absolute rubbish.
He was sacked by Les Ferdinand, for God's sake. Anyway, so there's the trouble with us is, again, it's mass the communication goes wrong sometimes. Things that little stories that people have got the wrong idea about QPR. People are always thinking we're trying to buy away success. We're doing this. We're paying too much money for players. We haven't developed our youth team. We haven't developed our training ground. And I suppose in some ways we need to maybe just take a hit in the Championship for a couple of years, forget promotion, and build on the essentials that will make sure the club exists beyond
But
chairman.
then why get rid of Ramsey? That's how I feel. But why get rid of Ramsey? We're not going to go down. We would consolidate under him whilst they fix the rest of the club.
Because
That's what I thought the plan was. That's why I felt sorry for the
Yeah,
bloke.
that meeting, weren't we?
And I was not a Ramsey fan, but I was not anti-Ramsey either. The jury was out.
But we were at that meeting. You and
Spend time doing exactly. To repeat, I said this last week. We were at a meeting with Ferdinand and Ramsey where they said, first job, don't do a Wigan.
Yeah.
Okay, I accept the 5 players stayed, all the rest of it. But it was consolidation and fix the club, help, develop the youth system, stadium, training ground, whilst kind of consolidating our space. So I feel sorry for the bloke. I
think most decent
to say that.
most decent fans
I think he was hard
will
done
do.
by.
Most decent fans will feel sorry for that just because it's it's almost a case of bullying. Maybe I don't know how maybe that's too strong a word, but
I don't think it was bullies.
No, maybe okay. I'll take that back. But do you know what I mean? It was almost like
You're saying was he hounded out?
Yeah, basically.
But why
Well, I think there would be a lot of
people.
people that would argue with that, and I think we're all similar-ish in our view on it. But there are a lot of people out there entitled to their view that think fair enough. The
course
bloke
they are,
wasn't
yeah.
getting the results,
Yeah.
and he had to go. And I pay my money every week to go to QPR. I want to be entertained. I don't want to see a mess at the back, and he wasn't delivering.
That is totally fair, but I mean, and as I said earlier, I agree with that. What I don't agree with is like seeing blokes in their sort of 50s spitting horrible bile at a bloke, right in front of me, just because we've narrowly lost a game 1-0. I just found that just quite.
Brentford was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad.
The one thing I hope is that this long-term plan is not lost. Well, the whole long-term strategy is not lost just because another manager's going to come in and do it his way.
But it
Got to
goes
keep
back.
to those
It
principles.
goes back unless we get rid of all those players in January. I mean, the only way if we're still in this, if we're 14th, 15th, 10 points above the relegation zone and 14 pints.
14 pints would be all right,
Freudian
I think.
slip that is. Yeah.
I'll take that.
That's what I needed to get through Saturday's game, I tell you. But then we offload all of those players. Then maybe fans will think, right, we're not going up, we're not going down. Let's get back to that youth policy. And I honestly think most fans would be happy with that.
But then you've got to develop a youth policy.
Yeah. I know, but with the youth, we'll work with these players. Bring back
Youth team
the
results
likes of
shocking.
Harriman. Bring back all these guys from loan. Plug the gaps with them. We're not going down. We're not going up, and let's just see how it pans out for the rest of the season.
Doherty or Harriman could do a job.
Yeah.
Right, we've got. I mean, you can't make any worse.
Oh, Furlong. I mean, everyone was raving about him the first 2 games, and then obviously he did look out of his depth. But
Against Sanchez, but so would I.
then
If we're nowhere near the playoffs in January, if
I
we're
say that quite easily.
If we're nowhere near the playoffs in January, we should just sell those players that we had in the Premier League last year. Because if we keep them,
if we can,
if we can,
we keep talking about Fur, but Fur failed the medical at Sunderland. People forget that for whatever
or if
reason.
we can't, then just stop playing them. Because if we don't, then by the time we get to the end of the season, it's just a complete overhaul again.
Yeah.
You're going to take 5 players
It's
out of the
always going to be
team.
overhaul of Rangers. That's what we do. We load squads and then we reload and we reload and we reload because it's mass panic in the boardroom half the time.
Okay, so let's move off Ramsey, and I'm sure that some people will agree with what we've said, some people won't agree with what we've said. Let us know on Twitter and we'll have a good old chat about it.
Yes, you've been doing that.
Sorry? Yeah, well, look, it's a game of opinions, isn't it?
It makes a change to me pissing off our listeners. Anyway.
Look, everybody has a slightly different opinion to everyone else, and that's sort of it's healthy, isn't it? New manager. Personally, if I had to choose someone to be the, whatever you call it, temporary manager, I could choose no one better than Neil Warnock. You know, who wouldn't be happy with that? Does anyone believe him that he doesn't want the job permanently?
No.
Okay, that's tick. That's cleared that one up. Do you think they will give him the job permanently?
Maybe till the end of the season, and if he doesn't go up, then they'll change, I think.
But again, is that the remit though?
Unless we do really well and just miss out, then you know they might give him another chance next season. But I don't know. Maybe I don't think it's certain they will give it to him to the end of the season.
What was it?
They'll wait to see how results go in the next few weeks.
We did the podcast last year, didn't we? Let's be fair. We did the live one. Did you get the feeling, as I did, that Neil Warnock was eager to get back into the club or whatever way he could get back in?
Yeah,
well, that's what Clive asked. Clive wrote a piece. Clive wrote a piece saying, "Do you think he did the podcast?" Where he said in it, you know, why did he do that live podcast and come all the way down from Cornwall?
Well, you know as well as I do, that was a long time in the making. To be fair,
He wanted to meet Paul Finney in person.
no,
Don't we all?
of course not.
These fellas have come from Australia.
Yeah, no, but he clearly loves the club. Whatever happened in that time, he's got an affiliation for. But I think with him, it's unfinished business. I do believe he feels that he was harshly sacked in the Premier League, and he wants to come back, sort out this squad, and prove to Fernandes he was wrong to sack him in the first place. Which, to be fair, is a win-win for everyone. Then, if that's the case, you know.
And if we took him on face value that he doesn't want the job, so therefore in the next month someone else will become the new manager, who would you choose?
Chris.
No, Chris couldn't do it. Chris couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Who would you pick?
Out of the candidates on that shortlist, I'd pick Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank out of all of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I agree with you there. I mean, he's done a great job, but given the mood amongst the fans over the last few weeks, if results started to go wrong, it wouldn't be long before the Chelsea connection was brought out to sort of beat him round the head with. I mean, the thing is, again, we come back to that thing about whether is it the manager or is it the structure he's in? Is it the whole club? Because there seems to be a lot of decent managers we've had who haven't done so well when they've come to QPR. But
give us a name, Chris.
Well, David Moyes is available after today.
Did he get sacked today? Is that what happened?
He's been sacked. I mean, I can't understand this, but there is rumours that Gary Monk's on borrowed time at Swansea.
I don't think he'd suit QPR because just everything's set up at Swansea, isn't it? All the managers have had some degree of success there, even whereas QPR, all the managers had
it's true.
failure.
But his cousin's Ian Gillard as well, so he's got the QPR connection.
One thing I'd say about Hasselbank is that he's proven himself in the lower leagues, but also if he were to get us promoted, once he is in the Premier League, because he's been there before, he'd probably demand the respect of
get the
players.
respect of the players, wouldn't he?
Yeah, unlike where some might look at Warnock and like Sean Wright-Phillips did and mock him with his fine letter on the back.
He's a far better player than anyone we've got.
Yeah.
As in, he played to a standard better than any of the players we've got, so there wouldn't be a problem on that score.
If you get 2 or 3 bad results, though, the Chelsea connection, I mean, it's
Well, that's always going to be there, regardless.
That's always going to
be.
Paul, your name?
I would throw one out there. I quite like. I think someone like Ainsworth is infectious. I think what he said at Wickham, he's just giving it a go. He's playing his team players how he played as a player. Whether or not it'd work, don't know, but it wouldn't be dull. And they'll give it a go. I like what Gareth said at Ainsworth, but is it too soon? And a lot of people are talking about Holloway. I think if you bring back Holloway, you could do the same thing with Jerry Francis. You could ruin someone's name. When Jerry came back the second time, and it didn't go well. I think Ian's a different person now, and I'm not sure that would work. Is it a case we haven't got faith in the board to go and get the right person? Is that the problem?
Say again, Terry?
Have we got faith in our board to
Well,
go and get the right person?
think
That's
No. Next.
Not before, but I think with Lee Hoos, if he has an active part in this process, given his track record with managers before, then that like I say, that could be the light at the end of the tunnel, because there's three, as I mentioned earlier, three decent managers that he's appointed at various clubs, or he certainly had a big say. Paul's just pointed to my notes. That's what I wrote down. On Odds Checker, Pearson's currently the favourite. I wouldn't particularly want him, but
you're an ostrich.
Yeah, in the in the top four, Alex McLeish and Tim Sherwood. Neither of which I particularly
Alex
want.
McLeish, last job seen failing somewhere in the Belgian second division or wherever he was.
And John Carver, worryingly, is only 33-1. Now, I mean,
that would not be a champagne appointment.
Tony Adams is in there, 66-1.
Tony Adams, 66-1.
Do you think we missed?
I put money on Derry, by the way.
Yeah,
25.
I put money on Derry only because I think Warnock will have an influence, and I think Warnock. This is how I could see it happening, because Warnock doesn't want the job full time, but he wants to keep involved.
Brackets,
and
yes, he does.
Brackets, yes, he does.
Yeah.
So he would probably have someone to do his running for him, to use a football analogy. And I could see him appointing Derry with Warnock as the father figure in the background.
Sorry, see who appointed him? Lee Hoos?
I could see Derry as our manager with Warnock in the wings.
Well, to be fair to Warnock, he did that with Keith Curle and Mick Jones before, and he would spend time on his tractor picking a team. And he said it himself. I'm not trying to be funny, so I can never be funny. But he said it himself. So I think it could be a case of maybe Neil sits in the background, and you're right, Derry could come in, maybe get a bit of guidance with Hill as a coach, and maybe keeping Steve Gallen around. I don't know.
Well, one thing it has to be said on Saturday with Neil coming in was the atmosphere was a lot better at home than it has been in quite a while. I mean, okay, it tailed off towards the second half.
It always is with a new manager, though.
Yeah, no, but
it's a hope that kills you.
But singing his name from there was a respectful 5-minute gap before they started singing his name, but then they were singing, and it was kept up for quite a while.
You saying that Chris Ramsey's name was never sang, was it?
No, there was a few people sang it at the last home game.
Point.
There was about 15 people in the R block started singing it, but only you could hear. You could only hear it.
I'm just thinking from day one, it was never.
No. Well, there you go. That says it all, doesn't it?
Sorry.
Really.
Just getting my head down.
I mean, you're right. I mean, it wasn't the appointment the fans wanted. David said it wasn't really the appointment that he wanted either. But I think once that appointment's been made, then you've got to try and get behind whoever that person is.
Was the dream manager Clement?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So why
did he turn it down though?
He didn't. Okay. He wanted to come to QPR.
Okay.
That's
well, that's what I thought at the time.
Everything else,
of course.
Not I'm using emotional strings, but
yes.
he did want to come.
Yeah,
to
but so why didn't it happen? Oh, I mean, is it one of those ones that you'll tell us in the pub afterwards?
Oh no.
Anyway,
because
I'm not in the know, Chris.
I really like the idea of Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank. I'm with you, Chris. I've got to say.
I just don't think he'd come.
I suspect it will be an Ainsworth,
also
Derry type appointment.
Fulham want him as well. They've also sacked their manager, copycats.
Well, I also said Fulham want Pearson as well. Anyone for Tim Sherwood?
No,
definitely.
Anyone
Australians?
Anyone think Tim Sherwood might be our manager, despite whether you want him or not?
What is the big thing about Sherwood? Why do people still talk about him? He's managed less than Paul Hart, and he was shocking, to be fair. But Sherwood's got no you can look at it and say, actually, you know what, he would actually do a job here, because he hasn't. I don't get it.
He's got a decent win record at Tottenham. He doesn't like to talk about it though.
Football is a funny business where the same blokes keep getting jobs despite being terrible. Terry Butcher has not been out of work for 20 years, and he's been a dreadful manager for 20 years. That's what happens in football.
He hasn't been a dreadful manager.
He has.
No, he hasn't.
Where's he done a good job?
Inverness.
He did actually. To be fair.
I mean,
you weren't expecting that, were
you? To be
you?
fair, I could get Inverness second in the SPL at the moment.
I'm going to put you forward then when it's like next manager.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Fraser for manager. The campaign starts here.
So before we go on to
That'd be some ego taken off, wouldn't it?
last thing I want to ask you about before the hours end, Fernandez. So he's been busy this week. He sent tweets about how transparent they are. He's summoned Lee Hoos and Les Ferdinand to Malaysia, supposedly, for a summit about our new manager. And there's this story which can't say it's I don't 100% understand, but I the gist of it is that the £180 million in loans that the directors were owed by the club has now been rolled into equity, and therefore it's not owed to them anymore. Any thoughts on Tony's behaviour, actions over the last week or so?
Gabriel.
Come on, Paul.
Listen, if the loan is, as Paul was saying, the pub earlier on, so I'm putting this someone you can't see, Paul from Australia, Paul Brown. It is Brown, isn't it? Yeah. Sorry.
Go
on. That's brilliant. But is the loans then going to be a case of where it goes into shares? Should we get the new ground? Should we get the trading ground? And QPR becomes a much bigger PLC, a much bigger company with more assets than what it has now. Because there's always small print in these things. That always worries me. You know, I come from a generation that's of the Fulham Park Rangers thing, the Chris Wright shambles. Everything's going to be fine. Chris Wright's in charge. He's a fan. It went absolutely diabolically wrong. We nearly lost our club. One point I will make is people keep talking about on Twitter, like mention about buckets. Like I look at the buckets as being a glory thing. I looked at the buckets as one of the saddest things that ever happened.
This is when we collected money.
Yeah, because
collected money
we didn't want to do it. I was one of the people in that room. Yeah, okay, and we did it. I got shitloads of abuse. I got hammered at games for doing it. I didn't want to do it, but we had to show Blackburn and Davis and the rest of them that the fans could carry this club forward. It wasn't a glory day. I don't want to go back to buckets, and it'll take a big feck off bucket now to save our club. No one wants that. But this end of the day, if it is true that they will write the debt off and take it with them in some kind of equity, that's not a bad thing. But we don't know. And to be fair to Tony, in a lot of things that he says, like expectations are too high, and then sacks a manager for not filling his expectations. It needs to be black and white. It needs to be out there in the open, and hopefully something they can answer a straightforward yes or no on the fans' film on Thursday is, will the debt go with the directors, yes or no? And that's all we
well, there's no debt now.
Well,
there's no debt.
Exactly.
If I've got it right, it's been rolled into equity.
If there's no debt, does that mean
does
that mean we still get done for FFP then? Or I don't really. Thing is,
I don't know if it's connected.
Right,
what it means is if someone is looking to buy the club, there's now there's no loans. The club owes no loans.
There's 25 million at Barclays.
We probably need someone here to talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't got a Scooby, to be honest. When it comes,
I think
to
you
stuff
take
like
it on
this.
face value, and on face value, it looks like the club's in a better position.
But then again, years ago, when we talked about the buckets, we got crippled by an ABC loan at £1 million interest.
Yeah, that sounds hilarious now. A mere £10 million loan. I can remember everyone was going on about it for years. That £10 million loan, it's $1 million. Now we're £200 million in debt.
I'd be more inclined to believe it was something good news if it was coming at a time when QPR are doing really well. But Fernandes tends to come out with statements that he thinks will help the fans with how they feel.
But that document was in black and white, though. It's on Twitter. I mean,
what?
It's filed with Company's House. I mean, it all looks legit, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've read a few bits and bobs on message boards, and there's people who know about these things saying, yes, that is what they've done.
So basically, if you understand it, come on the week after next and explain it to
us.
Well, I understand it, but I don't understand the nuances of it. On paper, the club owed £180 million. It now doesn't.
Well,
because it's been written off.
Some people are saying that they're clearing the decks to make it more attractive to sell.
Yeah,
but then they're not going to get £180 million for the club, are they? That's what I don't really...
It's more attractive to sell because for any prospective buyer, there's now... It's not, will you buy the club? Oh, and there's £180 million
No, of course, I understand that, but... there's got to be more to it than that. I mean, has it been converted to shares? So again, yeah. Oh God.
So basically, we have no assets, though. Really, Loftus Road doesn't belong to us. That belongs to... We've got a loan out with Barclays and that. So we don't own our training grounds. So all we've got is
the players' registration.
You said something to me in a WhatsApp earlier on, which is true. Which is basically we need.
Was that, Paul? Now I'm worried.
Yeah, we need basically 5 years of call in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line.
Well, I said if we're in the Premier League consistently for several years, then all of a sudden, so long as you don't completely waste the revenue that you get in, the club is then worth a lot of money to anybody that might want to buy it.
Yeah,
which makes sense.
It's also worth a lot of money if you build a stadium and build a load of houses around it as well.
But sure, look at Bournemouth today. There's someone coming for them from America, like to invest in them. They wouldn't invest in Bournemouth a year ago, would they? But the Premier League globally is a massive. So perhaps we're not seeing the bigger picture. I don't know.
Okay, R's End, which is the end of the podcast. Anything you want to talk about, haven't spoken about so far, although we've covered a hell of a lot. And you know what, Chris, if you when we go around the table, if you pass your mics to Paul and David, if they'd like to give us their R's End,
I'll move,
we'd be more than willing to hear it. So, Paul, we'll start with you.
Football kits.
Okay.
Why does no one ever get them right? I mean, the QPR kit, my daughter came to the game Saturday, bless her, and she enjoyed it. And she wants.
Did she?
Yeah, she wants a season ticket again. She had a season ticket
God,
for years.
you've been working on that one for so long. You've been so desperate to get a like in QPR. Well done, mate.
She said,
well done.
She made me proud.
You've finally done it.
No, she said on Saturday, she went, do you know, we played really well then. And the tears were flowing, because that means she's part of the family. It was brilliant. Well, she was. I mean, she is part of the family.
Another life ruined.
But yeah, exactly. But I know we've talked about this before, Northern Ireland are going to France. It's not QPR related. Whoever designed that kit deserves to be taken outside and put in a
the Northern Ireland kit.
Yeah.
I mean, this is niche now.
Yeah, it's awful. It looks disgusting. I'm not happy. And then, anyway, going back to my daughter, what she was saying, the QPR kit from the back on Saturday, she goes, Dad, I hate to say this, but you look like that lot down the road from the back if you miss out the hoop at the bottom. And she goes, I don't think you should be happy with
she's
that.
how old?
She's 14, David.
She's 14, so a 14-year-old knows that it's a bad kit from the back. Why don't the powers that be at QPR and Nike know that?
Ooh. Very well said there.
Chris.
I think they do now.
Chris.
Okay, right, well, let me find
It's got War and Peace with them.
I know. I've got...
That is 5 pages of notes.
Yeah, no,
someone wasn't working today.
No, it's in big print. That's why.
Is that because your eyes are going?
Yeah,
Size 14.
Yeah. First of all, I just wanted to say, because I couldn't, I tried to sum up Saturday's game, and everyone else tried to sum it up. But I couldn't sum it up as well as Sean Walsh, who said, today's game was like waiting for a friend who's running late and your phone's dead. Which, you have to think about it for a bit, but it is good. Anyway,
thinking.
Okay. So, the R's End. The other thing I was going to say wasn't the sky nice on Saturday? Do you see that? Nice, lovely orange sky. Yeah.
My daughter took a photograph of
it. Yeah, I did as well.
Okay.
Anyway, so...
You've had 2 points.
Okay, but they were very quick. Very quick.
Point?
No.
Excellent.
Empty seats, particularly on weeknights, on school nights, and particularly in Loftus Road, lower where I sit, where most of the kids who sit there on a Saturday aren't there because it's a school night. I'm just wondering if we can do something to address that, whether the club could just say, OK, for those nights, if you've got your kids' ticket with you, you can bring one of your mates along. They're not going to lose any money. The ground's going to be a bit fuller. We're going to get a bit more support, because it's quite embarrassing for, to look and you just see these...
That's a nice idea.
That's a brilliant idea.
The club listen to this podcast, so I think they should adopt that. Why not? Because most kids are not going to the midweek game, so why not be able to bring anyone you like on that ticket?
Yeah, only a thought.
Club, over to you. Right. So we've got David first. You've got to pass your mics, Chris, Paul.
That's a Beastie Boys song.
So,
Pass the mic.
David, what's the view from Perth? What's your R's End?
Well, I don't know if it's really QPR. I could do one about how good Chelsea's season is.
No.
And say that, I'll just say that last time they started the season this badly, they got relegated. QPR-wise, I'm not too sure. I think I still agree with a lot of stuff you said in the Ramsey thing. Well, I think if we're going to be looking at consolidating this season, I don't know why we said mid-table at the start of the season, everyone was happy with that. Yeah. And now we've suddenly gone against that, and now we want promotion. But I don't know, really. I'm not really...
And who would your choice for manager be?
Probably Warnock, maybe. I think I'd say Warnock, really. Just leave him till the end of the season, see how he goes, and then see where we go from there.
What a young man.
Luckily, we can't hear you, Paul, because you haven't got a mic. You've got to talk into this if you want to talk.
By the way, has anyone noticed he's grew up all his life in Perth? There's no hint of an Australian accent there at all.
Yeah.
He's had good influences, hasn't he?
It's fake. They're going to think you're lying.
In Northern Ireland and
and how many games do you realistically get to watch from Perth? It just depends
that's why
on
we
what
wanted
division.
the Premier League, really. The Premier League that's the only real benefit of the Premier League for us is that, I mean, we see them lose more often, but we also actually get to watch the games. Because when it's in the Championship, we have to find a dodgy stream or something like that.
No, you get the viruses for a different reason, Paul. It's not the streams. Well, it is, but not right. A friend told me. Ask him for a mate. Paul, thanks, David. Paul,
I've got not much to add. In fact, I've got lots to add, but I haven't got a lot of time. I would just like to say I was really moved on Saturday at the minute silence was absolutely fantastic. We heard a few shouts from outside, but everyone in the stadium was absolutely silent. I just loved it. I got a bit teary at the time, I must admit. But apart from that, not a lot. My choice for manager?
Yeah.
Is that what your question?
That's what I was about to ask you.
I'd say Warnock for the rest of the season. Probably at the moment beyond. I can't see any reason why we'd change.
And what are your expectations now for the season?
Well, if you look at my Twitter feed, it's mid-table sludger is what I'm called at the moment. So that's about it, I think.
Okay.
who would you see beyond the end of the season, say for next season? Who would your choice of manager be then?
Well, I think the idea was great. Get a young manager in, younger manager in. But I think they just picked the wrong bloke. He's a lovely, lovely man, Chris Ramsey. And as I say, I'm with you. I actually was quite embarrassed, the amount of stick that he got. I do agree, though, he should have gone. I know you blokes don't agree, but I think he should have gone because he wasn't performing. And I think they had the right idea, but they chose the wrong bloke.
Right.
As you say, the dream manager, right, was Paul Clement, to be honest with you.
So who's the dream manager now?
Me and Paul.
I'll tell you what. No, I really don't know. I honestly don't know. But someone in their 40s who's able to take us forward.
Yeah, Chris Charles just put his hand up.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm in my 60s, so I can't, unfortunately. I'm in like Neil Warnock's.
And you're not local.
Well, I can be.
Paul, we can't hear you.
My first game was Leicester in I think it was round of the last 16 when they played 1966. That was my first game at Rangers.
Did you get to the playoff final?
Yeah, 2014.
Came over for that.
Yes.
Got to.
We've got to stop getting glory hunters on the show.
Thank you.
No.
Thanks for coming. Chris, I'm not going to make an R's end. I've said enough.
What?
No. So go on, Chris, finish up. No. Gabe wants to go home.
I just hope
you can tell.
If they do keep Warnock on for the rest of the season, then I hope they don't. I hope they just make an announcement soon and they don't just keep us in limbo, because I think it'd really help the players knowing who's going to be there for the rest of the season with their performances, even maybe before the next game, because we've got an international break. It's not as an easy game. It's away to Middlesbrough, and then we've got Leeds at home who are starting to come into form. And I think it'd be good if Tony Fernandes just didn't speak so much on Twitter. I know he hasn't much recently, but it just doesn't help himself when he comes out and says things that contradicts something that he says 3 weeks earlier. And when fans have the owner doing that, then no wonder they turn on the manager if they think that it's going to help. Do you know what I mean? Whereas, say if you're a fan of Man United or Chelsea, it doesn't matter who, you can't just go on Twitter and speak to the chairman and think that it's going to help sacking the manager. And I think he's kind of almost breeded that kind of that hate from the fans towards Ramsey.
So he was doing quite well not talking. He should have continued it.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Paul? Okay. Paul hasn't got a microphone. It's an absolute joy for the rest of us. We're not planning to be here next week. We're not going to be here next week because there's no game. So we'll be back in 2 weeks' time. Thank you very much for listening. This has been the QPR Podcast. The QPR Podcast is a West 12 Media and Burble Media production. The QPR Podcast is sponsored by Northwood Fresh Fruit Flowers and Plants. Based outside Northwood train station, they'll supply everything you need in the way of fruit, flowers and plants daily. And if you're passing them at Northwood train station, pop in and say hello, because Kev, who runs it's a QPR fan. Tell him the QPR Podcast sent you.
QPR. QPR, Chris Rangers are on the up and